How to Train Your Dragon was released in 2010 and was directed by Dean DeBlois and Chris Sanders. It was praised by critics and audiences, it spawned one of Dreamworks' most beloved and successful franchises, and is all around one of the best movies to come out of that studio. Which of course meant that it had to be remade. Back in June of this year, Dreamworks decided to jump on the live-action remake bandwagon by giving us How to Train Your Dragon. But for real this time. Despite Dean DeBlois returning to direct and the trailers looking somewhat promising, this still felt extremely unnecessary and came off as DreamWorks jumping on a trend that should have died 10 years ago. But to my surprise, it was exactly that. Not to say that it was bad necessarily, it did its job in recapturing the charm of the original film, and it was far better than either of Disney's live-action outings this year. But with how much of a literal copy-paste this movie was, I don't see any reason for why you wouldn't just watch the original again. But let me go over the good stuff. I will give them credit that rather than trying to update or drastically change the story, the film stays extremely close to the original script. It's essentially a line-for-line, shot-for-shot retelling, which on the one hand, you have to wonder why they remade it in the first place, but at the same time, considering Disney's habit of completely botching their remakes whenever they try to change or alter the story, I think they made the right call not straying too far from the original. And the changes that they do make are pretty small and mostly inconsequential. The music is lifted directly from John Powell's original score, and it just feels so great hearing these tracks blaring through the cinema again. I know they do this shit on purpose for this exact reason, but I just couldn't help smiling a bit when I heard Test Drive again. The effects do look pretty solid for what they were going for. Nothing is ever going to capture the awe and majesty of the flying scenes from the original, but they are pretty decent, and the dragon designs are solidly translated. Wish I could say the same about the actors. Okay, they aren't all bad. Mason Thames is pretty good, Gerard Butler is of course great as Stoic. Everyone else was kind of a mixed bag. Astrid came across as pretty wooden in a few moments. I love Nick Frost, but he was not the right choice for Gobber. And the friends range from okay to even more annoying than the original. And the original had TJ Miller. Now that we're jumping into the negatives, I think the movie being a shot-for-shot translation is kind of a double-edged sword. Because we know the structure of the original and you're constantly waiting to get to the scenes you're waiting for, hell, I even found myself reciting the script in my head along with the movie. It can make the pacing feel a bit awkward when the movie takes twice as long to get to those moments. Also, like I said, the few new things they add don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but they are still pretty weird. Some aren't too bad, like Astrid wanting to win at dragon training so she can eventually become the chief one day, and when she tries to use that as a dig at Hiccup, he actually agrees with her. But then there's stuff like Snotlout going through pretty much the exact same arc that Hiccup goes through and trying to get his dad to notice him. And it just seems so pointless. Ultimately, like I said at the start, nothing can ever replace the original. It's an absolute classic. It's beautifully animated, has great characters, a fun story, everything. But for what this is, I don't think they did a bad job. It managed to remain pretty faithful. I don't think Dean DeBlois would have done it if he didn't care about what he was making. And unlike Snow White and Stitch, you get the sense that these people understood what they were making and tried to make it good. They didn't always succeed, but at least they tried. So if you just want to relive these moments through a slightly worse lens, then sure, be my guest. But if you haven't seen the original, then absolutely go watch the original. I would really rather this not set a precedent for DreamWorks' future, because we've all seen what their competitor has turned into. A shambling corpse propped up by lazy nostalgia, and I'd hate for DreamWorks, or any other studio for that matter, to suffer the same fate. I'm fine if the Dragons movies are just a one-time thing, but we don't need to see a live-action Shrek. Oh, wait. We already did. Although while I'm talking about the sequels, I guess I should mention what I'd like to see from them in the future. I don't think these movies need to be 100% retellings of the original. They are allowed to change stuff if the changes make sense. Build on the characters more, explore some ideas that maybe weren't allowed to be explored in the animated film for whatever reason. And goddammit, bring Cate Blanchett back as Valka. But anyway, I know this review is extremely late, but I was on hiatus when Dragons came out because of the move, but I still wanted to share my thoughts on it. But yeah, going to my ranking, I'd have to give Dragons 2025 a 3.5 out of 5.